Well, that's not working. Here we go. And good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. David and Chuck here on our Tuesday night, the David and Chuck Show, here on eNet Sports, Tuscola Football Network, and all the other platforms that we're on. Good evening, Chucky. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, as always.
And we're going to spend a lot of time tonight. Because we have two shows on Friday and then we got the Saturday show to review. So we're not going to talk a whole lot on Tuesdays unless about the Tuscola in the high school stuff right now. We're going to talk about baseball and college football, and we've got a special guest that we hope is going to be a contributor with us every week from now on to talk college football and Big Ten football. And you're down there in the ACC world, and I'm partial to the SEC. We're going to get all this stuff covered. So we're excited about where we're headed. So hey, Chuck, is it cold down there, bud, in Winston?
It's beautiful. It's football. You can tell it's moving into fall. Sunny afternoon, no clouds in the sky. Beautiful weather down here.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a little nippy in the mountains, but it's beautiful here too. I love it. So anything before we get going, you need to get off your chest, and let me hear you talk about in the sports world. You want to vent real quick, because that's a fun part of the show for me, when you get a little angry.
No, I'm not angry. I'm excited right now. Detroit Tigers, who a month ago we were like, all right, it's another year where we just cast them off in the final season. Somebody else is going to be happy. And all of a sudden they started playing well, and they're three. Boston, Detroit, and Seattle have 73 wins, 71 losses. They're tied for that and in the hunt for the third wild card spot. So finally, we're in September, mid-September, and Detroit's relevant. So as a Detroit Tiger fan, I'm excited to watch it.
I think I'm going to be teamed up on. I'm going to be teamed up on here real soon, talking about the Detroit 2 games over 500 and talking about the playoffs.
Well,
you should be ashamed of yourself.
I would be concerned because the ownership papers of the Baltimore Orioles lie in Detroit, and you got 6 games ahead of you, 3 in Detroit and 3 in Baltimore. I don't know. I'd be a little worried if I was one of those blackbirds with the orange belt.
I think I would be too, because there's no pitching. But tonight we're gonna concentrate on college football. A lot has transpired in the first 3 weeks. We're going to have a really good discussion about the games and all that stuff. But I think we're going to start talking into the nuts and bolts of the actual college football world that I think needs some changes, and that's just me. And we'll have a great discussion about that. So, folks, I want to make sure that before we bring our college football contributor on, Big Ten contributor, and most of you will know him here in just a minute. I just want to take about 2 or 3 minutes, and Chuck, let me make sure that this is going to work, because I work real hard to screw this up sometimes. And
you overthink.
Here we go. There we go. David and Chuck's top 10 for this week, and we each had our top 10 this morning. We'll buzz through them here real quick so we can bring Mr. Clay on and introduce Peter to everyone. But Chuck, you've got Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State in your top 3.
Right.
I've got Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee in my top 3.
Homer. Excuse me.
Hey, it is what it is. You've got Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss, 4, 5, 6. I've got Ole Miss, Alabama, Ohio State, 4, 5, and 6. I'm not sold on Ohio State, Chucky.
All right.
I'm just not. You've got Utah, 7. I've got Missouri, 7. And I know for a fact you're not sold on Missouri. We had a really good discussion about that this morning before your first cup of caffeine and chaos coffee.
Mhm.
when I so rudely called you a little before 7 a.m. I've got Miami 8, Southern Cal 9, Oregon 10. You've got Southern Cal 9 and Miami 10, and your number 8 team, which I am going to applaud you, is Northern Illinois. And a hell of a story.
Right.
What a win.
You got to give them respect. They walked into then the number 5 ranked Notre Dame into South Bend, Indiana, and thumped them. And they're undefeated, so why not put them in the top 10 and knock out Notre Dame? Here's the problem I have with polls is that they put Northern Illinois 25 like one day after they beat Notre Dame. They put Northern Illinois 25 and put Notre Dame 18. Wait a minute, they just beat them. People don't think through. So why not give Northern Illinois some credit, some rep, and put them at 8? And will they be there? I don't know. They might be this year's TCU. I have no clue.
But yeah, you never know. But and I love to see those things.
Right.
But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that we had our top 10, and from now on, we'll have 3 of us on here with our top 10s, I hope. And I'm going to take that down and get back to our other screens. And I want to introduce to everyone and reintroduce to the people of Western North Carolina, even though we're really honored at our reach. Chuck, we've got people all over the country that's really cool that watch what we do. And we got some folks overseas that are watching. And so I want to reintroduce to Western North Carolina the former co-host of the Sports Freaks on WWNC, the former co-host for Friday Night Football all over Western North Carolina for a very long time when it first started, Mr. Peter Clay. Hello, Peter. It's an honor to have you with us on the David and Chuck Show.
Good to see your face. I've been seeing it on TikTok, but I don't think we've actually talked face to talked on the phone, but face to face. It's been a while.
Sir.
Good to see you guys.
It's good to see you, and I know you remember Chuck from the Mountaineer.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
It's
fellow
really
Tiger fan. I will say one thing back to the Tigers is though I'm a huge fan, the TV deals have been screwed up so badly, and Bally is such a terrible, terrible system that I haven't watched a Tiger game all year. I've paid attention to it, but it's unfortunate. I mean, they want $25 to stream it. It's not on any platforms other than Comcast. It's just terrible. So that's my opinion. The Major League Baseball needs to figure out their TV deals.
And that's
Peter got that voice.
Yes.
I mean, you just born with it. I wish I had that voice of yours, Peter.
Well, and you guys were saying earlier how beautiful. One of the things I get to say at the beginning, I'm the PA announcer for Michigan State football, is at the beginning of every game, I get to say, it's a beautiful day for football. And it could be snowing, it could be 80 degrees, it could be whatever, raining. It's always a beautiful day for football.
Are you in?
That's right. Because if you were in Knoxville, it's football time in Tennessee.
There you go.
I had to say it. I mean, I have to give them a little props.
Hey, you know, they're one of my my top 5s.
Yeah,
definitely my number 1 SEC team. There's no doubt in that. And, but I liked your list. I liked the nod to Northern Illinois, although I think that Notre Dame is one of those teams that's just going to disappoint. I think you've got a few in those top 10 that a few are going to just disappoint us. And Miami is a constant disappointment. So I'll wait till midseason before I'm a believer in Miami.
Well, let's do this. Let's start. Let's start in the ACC. I know you're up there in Big Ten. And by the way, folks, this is so cool that we're able to do this. I'm here in my home studio at the top on the mountain in Maggie Valley. Chuck is in his pimped out house down there in Winston-Salem, and Peter is in his home studio in East Lansing, Michigan. So it's really cool that we're able to do this. So technology is a pain in the butt sometimes, but also this is kind of cool. So Let's talk ACC football, Chuck, because so far it has not gone according to plan.
No doubt about it. I mean, with the debacle by Clemson and everybody counting on Florida State, I think the biggest, greatest disappointment in this season has been Florida State. And then you got, finally ranked since Ryan was at quarterback at Boston College. Boston College gets ranked. So right now it's a wide open. We're probably the ACC is probably the 5th ranked conference of the Power Four.
Well, the thing, and I'm gonna throw this out to you too. I'll try to be the quarterback of this thing here, so we can make sure. So the ACC has 4 teams ranked, no one above 10, and Miami's at 10. And I know rankings really don't mean squat; they really, really don't. But they're there. Biggest disappointment 3 weeks, guys, Florida State, or no?
We're going to find out. I mean, 2 weeks, Boston College hosts Michigan State, and Michigan State's a little bit of surprise. I don't know what's going on. Well, we've got a great coach, but that's a cross-conference game that they're going to get to host. I think going into the season, that game did not have a big star on it for Michigan State. And now all of a sudden, I think it matters quite a bit. In Boston College, we're going to see who they are. I don't know if they're the best team in the ACC, but they're first place right now because they're one of the few teams that's played games.
Chuck, your thoughts on the ACC as far as, again, this is just, it really doesn't mean a lot right now because of especially with the expanded playoffs, but your thoughts on Florida State, and then tell me a little bit about the Deacons. When you're down there, you're a Deacon guy.
Well, Wake Forest, let's start with Wake Forest, is that, a very disappointing loss at home against Virginia, 31-30. It was watching the fourth quarter and it just getting away from the Demon Deacons. Very disappointed. But again, is that you got to have, you look at this team and you're thinking, okay, they're prime like all of Clausen. Most of Clausen's team is that they're 22, 23, and some 24-year-old. He's playing with a veteran team. But, just it got away from him at home, and that's a very disappointing thing. And I think when you look at Florida State, it is a complete disappointment. And you have DJ U coming in, and again, he's just, this was a kid that the so-called experts had him the number one prospect coming out of Centennial, California. And, he never made it at Clemson. He had a decent year, or I would say an average year at Oregon State. The head coach from Oregon State goes to Michigan State. And he tries to find a home and ends up at Florida State. And it's just like one problem after another in Tallahassee. I don't think this is going to be a very positive year for the ACC. Somebody's going to come and win it. Schedules, I think Peter is exactly right, is that a couple of weeks when the Spartans go to Boston College, that will be that'll be a physical game because I think they got 2 athletic quarterback, Childs from Michigan State. And Peter, my niece was all Big Ten in women's soccer at Michigan State.
Nice. And MSU just their women's soccer team just finished up going undefeated non-conference. So including wins against Arkansas and a bunch of them. So yeah, MSU women's soccer, nice.
Yes, and then so I just look at you had one of the bell cows in North Carolina State, and I'll be real quick on this, is that they went to Charlotte, a place they were 0-5, came out 0-6, and got thumped by Tennessee. So I just don't know where the bell cow or the team that you can hang your hat on, where that team's at.
I think it's Clemson's to lose, and it hopefully that gets. I mean, they'll at least get one team into the playoffs. I would think, but you never know. I mean, it's that's the cool thing with these giant conferences without 2 separate divisions. you're taking the top two teams in the conference and playing each other, as opposed to what's happened in some years, and especially in the ACC. Every year you've had one side of the conference be so much stronger than the other, and a team that didn't deserve to play in the championship is playing in the championship. And now you have. I think it's going to be great with all of these.
You got cut out just a little bit there. He'll be right back. Peter, you there?
Oh, I'm there. Did I cut out?
Yeah, you cut out just a little bit.
Oh, sorry about that.
No,
you're fine.
I had a pretty good signal.
But before we move on, right now, I'm not talking about in 4 or 5 weeks. Thumbs up, thumbs down on the ACC as an overall, as a football conference this year.
Thumbs down. Halfway.
I'm more with Peter. I'm kind of here a little bit because I want to throw my 2 cents in. I think Clemson and Miami are going to be the 2 best teams in this conference. I think Clemson probably is going to dominate this conference. And when we get in and start talking here a little bit about this week with Georgia, I think Georgia's just a different level, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Really disappointed. I was, in the way that NC State reacted down in Charlotte. I'm 100% agreement with you, Chuck. Really disappointed. But don't sleep on Boston College, and don't sleep on Syracuse.
That was another name I was going to mention. You never know what a team like Syracuse. I mean, they're always there's always a team. You go back to years where Duke has done what they've done. I mean, it's too early to tell whether some other team's going to just go on a run.
Well, you have a real talented athletic running back, athletic quarterback at Boston College. You got McCord at Syracuse. You got Klubnik at Clemson, and I think and Cam Ward over at Miami. And after that, the quarterback situation's pretty much a questionable thing. So I think you have those 4 teams that may end up battling for the ACC championship. But I'm with Peter on the fact that it's Clemson's championship to lose. Yeah,
and I think that people overreacted to what happened against Georgia, and I also believe that they're overreacting about what happened against Appalachian State. They're somewhere in the middle.
Right.
They're not that bad, and I just don't believe they're that good. I think they're somewhere in the middle, guys. I mean, that's again. And
I think that's fair.
We always people overreact because of the way you need instant gratification now. And so anyway, the Big 12. And I don't
You're going to skip right over the Pac-12? I mean, I want to pick Washington State. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, got you. But I don't want to talk about Colorado yet. I want to save that for right at the end or near the end, the last 20 minutes or so, because I think that's a discussion that's bigger than just Colorado.
Well, I think that I think Oregon State has a 50-50 chance to win the Pac-2. and I think that, although you do have to look at Washington State as a contender. So,
But tell me you're not pulling for those 2 teams, because I sure as heck am.
Hey, you can catch every one of their games on the CW all season long.
Yep. But tell me you're not pulling for them.
I feel bad. Especially being a Michigan State fan who, watched them lose their coach. And then but I gotta say, you feel a little bit bad, but you feel a little bit like they did it to themselves. Those 2 schools decided to take legal action as opposed to finding a home. And I thought that they came off with sour grapes, and I don't think anyone really wanted them at that point.
I think you and Chuck had a secret meeting. Because I know that Chucky feels pretty much along those lines.
Yeah, they're going to probably same thing as what Peter's saying. I just think, they did not react to the news of the 4 leaving to go to the Big Ten. And so while Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado are all playing immediately what Peter said is that to get on board with another conference and then fight the fight later take care of your program, they started throwing in the lawyers into the thing, and I think it really backfired because you may have had a chance to have a home in the Big 12 if you'd just been gracious and said, look, we don't have a home, we got good program, we got good sports, can we join your conference?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Cal did. Cal knew that there was an issue with the California, that they went to the legislature, they went to the governor, but they also found a home because they went and worked both sides of it.
Right.
So, well, let me get back to this. Let me ask you, Utah Utes, thoughts, both of you. And I know, Peter, I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know a whole lot.
I was actually to have any of this discussion. Chuck, Utah, what are your thoughts?
Well, Utah, I was listening to a podcast where it had your friend, your buddy, Urban Meyer, and Urban was telling, his one of his top coaches at Utah when Urban was there was Willingham. And he was telling the audience, the listening audience, that Willingham said this is the best team, chemistry-wise, talent-wise, a veteran quarterback he's ever had at Utah, and would rival the Utah team that Urban had that went undefeated. And they have come up. They got Cam Rising at a quarterback, and as you see, I have Utah in my top 10. I think I've heard enough and seen enough out of Utah to think that they're going to play defense. They're going to rock your world. They got a veteran quarterback who's very talented. They got receivers. Their offensive line is again a very talented offensive line. I see Utah as one of those teams making the 12-team playoff. Definitely.
I don't know enough. I look at their schedule. I think that it's hard to know what's favorable now with the new Big 12, but hey, there'd be stranger things. Sorry about the dogs there. So there could be stranger things than a team like Utah. I mean, Urban Meyer obviously took that team to a heights, however long ago that was. And I think that there's possibilities there, but I'm going to have to wait and see.
Those are very good diplomatic answers, Chuck.
That's as far as I can go. We got Utah State this weekend, so I think if they show up hard on that and double them up or something, then. And
that's really weird this week because you've got rivalry games because of all this realignment. You've got a handful plus of rivalry games this week that are usually the last week of the season. Right. So there's a lot to get used to. I think Arizona's going to be okay. I don't know much. Iowa State went in there and played their guts out against Iowa in a big, big win last Saturday. And I know that at one point Campbell was like the hot guy. I think he's a phenomenal football coach. I think that if he stays at Iowa State, they're going to continue to get better. And if he goes somewhere else where there are other resources, I think this guy is a national championship caliber coach. I might be the only one in here that believes that, but I love the way he coaches, and I love the way that the kids respond to him.
I don't know if he's going to win it at Iowa State, but maybe.
No, I didn't say that. but if he ends up going to a place like a Florida, Chuck,
Well, Billy's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Napier. And, there's several SEC coaches that are on the hot seat right now that, one just got to Auburn and already he's on the hot seat. They are tearing Auburn up. And speaking of that ACC team, Cal played so well against Auburn. I don't know if Cal's that good. It could be a surprise team, or is Auburn that bad? So maybe a combination of both, but there's in the Big 12, there's probably just 3 or 4 teams, just like the ACC, that'll be battling it out. But my favorite's Utah. That's all I know.
I tend to agree with you on Utah, but I think Iowa State, Kansas State, and the one that will always kind of hurt your feelings a little bit there is Oklahoma State. They kind of get right there and are never really able to go over the hump because I'm a man.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be a time very soon that Oklahoma State's not going to be in play in this new conference. I mean, Baylor's obviously going to come back and later on. They're not there this year, and Arizona State. They've never been overly competitive in the Pac-12, but I don't think that the Big 12 is necessarily where the Pac-12 was last year.
And I hate to keep agreeing with you two. I
try.
Hey. We have to find it.
You remember when I was on the Sports Freak?
We're really early in this thing, so
it is.
But the two best conferences, head and shoulders above everybody else, is the second best conference is going to be the Big Ten.
I might have disagreed with you until this past weekend. I don't think there's.
You got some football teams there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Michigan.
Chuck, I guess we'll start with Michigan. You remember last year from preseason on our shows and on our 11 or 12 or 13-year-old group text, I said Michigan. I'll pat myself for that. Michigan will win the national championship. And I never wavered last year. I don't know that they're going to win 8 football games this year.
That's a possibility, but when you start looking at the competition as they get into the conference play, they'll win 8. But there's, they could even be a 9-3, 8-4 team at the end of the regular season, go to a mid-level bowl. But that Michigan team's got too many holes. They lost too many people, 17 people off that national championship team, NFL draft, and a few transfers, but not a lot. But still, you got a new coaching change, and so it wasn't a disappointment. It was that I didn't think Michigan was that bad. I thought Michigan would give them a better game in their house. But hey, you got to give Texas credit. They were a much better team than we had thought. Our Peter is right. He mentioned it early on. Folks start looking at Michigan State because new coaching he's got.
Does that pain you to say that? I know that it does.
No, I mean, look, if like I said, I grew up a Michigan fan, but I have a niece and my brother are big time Michigan State people. And so you'd like to see, after the last 4 or 5 years that they have gone through, you'd like to see Michigan State do well. They got beautiful facilities, one of the most beautiful campuses in the country. Folks, if you're ever driving through Michigan, get to East Lansing and drive through Michigan State's campus. It's gorgeous.
Unless it's December or February.
Until it snows at the end of September, and then you like,
yeah.
So I think with the Big Ten, I'm going to ask you to, and it'll change every week, but I want to ask you to give me your top 5 that you see at the end of the year right now, and just off the top of your head. Peter, you go first. I want to save Chuck for last in this.
I think Ohio State. I know that you aren't sold on them yet. They are, if you look at what they've done the last 20 years, they're never out. They've lost to Michigan last few years. I don't think that's going to happen this year. And I think that they stumble early, but they don't lose. And I just don't see a loss on their schedule. I would say second is going to be a toss up between Oregon, USC and Penn State. And I don't know which one of those teams is better. I have a hard time. Penn State usually disappoints. Oregon did not look good this weekend. And USC, I can't remember the last time they didn't falter multiple times in a season to end up disappointing. But again, people say that about Michigan State all the time. Same old Sparty. They're going to screw everything up, whatever. I'll put Michigan State at number 5 just because that's I'm going to be watching them every week. I'm going to be calling the games, and I think that they're going to be exciting to watch. You got an 18-year-old at quarterback and a 17-year-old wide receiver that's all of a sudden on the national stage after a big game. They're young, they're fast, but injuries are going to be an issue. They're not that deep. But the culture changes, the discipline, all that stuff that you want in a program when you're rebuilding is there. So I think they're going to win some games they shouldn't, and they're going to lose, the games they should. I don't see them beating. I don't see them beating Michigan. I don't see them beating Ohio State. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch.
Chuck, your top 5 in the Big Ten.
My top 5 are the same teams. And I give a little bit more. Look, I don't see holes in Ohio State right now. And, the fact of the matter is Michigan's losses of personnel and in coaching, I don't see Michigan being able to do what they've done the last 3 years and bully Ohio State and bloody their nose into interior lines. Let's just be quite frank. Michigan walked in 3 straight years and bullied them and beat them up. And said, let's go into a phone booth and the best team's going to come out of here. And Ohio State didn't want to go play that kind of brand of football. I've watched Ohio State a whole game and a half, and I tell you, it's hard to watch that kind of stuff, but you try to watch all the best. No holes in Ohio State. I think USC is one of those teams that, is a surprising. They got great play at the quarterback, and they got great receivers. And their offensive line is steady. I think they're going to be the second best team. And then I think, with like what Peter said, you can count on Penn State to mess with your mind. And I'm sorry for Penn State fans. They start to get all like we're going for and then boom, they get beat 1 or 2 games. But here, Oregon, I think Oregon's a major disappointment, but you got to look at them as the best 5. And I think the team that will rise to the top and keep playing because he's got them believing is Michigan State. I can see it's a possibility if you get some breaks in a couple of those games, Michigan State could be what was 2-3 years ago TCU.
Okay, let me throw a name. Well, let me throw a name at you both. Nebraska.
No, I'm not on their bandwagon.
Yeah, you'd have to give a lot of credit to Colorado in order to give a lot of credit to Nebraska, and I'm not willing to do either yet. Nebraska's, they just haven't put a good football team on the field in a few years. I mean, I like Nebraska. Don't get me wrong. Their fans are great. There's a lot about them that are great, but I don't think that was an impressive. It was impressive they beat Colorado by so much, but I don't think it was a overly impressive performance. We should be talking about the MAC. I forgot Penn State. I turned over from the Michigan game and almost watched Bowling Green take down Penn State, and then Northern Illinois. Why aren't we talking MAC as a Power 5?
Well, there could be the way things are going. The transfer seems to be weakening all these powerhouses.
Exactly.
Absolutely, and again, that's our discussion right here in just a little bit, and. Now and then let's talk a little SEC. In the top 25, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams in the top 25, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 7. Now, again, its rankings do not mean a whole lot, but the pundits, and Chuck hates the pundits, Peter. It's not a dislike. He hates these people because most of them really, truly are just blowhards who don't know what they're talking about. But they have 6 of the top 7 teams from the SEC. I think Georgia is just at a different level. Throw it to both of you.
We've seen this Georgia team just reload. They're doing what Alabama did for years and years, and they're until somebody beats them. Obviously, last year a different story, but they're hungry, and they want to win a national championship again. And so their goal isn't just to win the SEC, and that's a pretty big goal just to win the SEC. I mean, teams haven't done that in years. Georgia, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the SEC having all those spots, considering what happened to the other teams that were occupying those spots in the top 10. But you know, obviously, once they start playing each other, things get to spread out, and we won't see that, and some teams will emerge. I'm curious about what Alabama's going to do, but Georgia, yeah, I mean, there's to lose.
Chucky?
I think Georgia is they are the most dominant team I've seen in several years. They've got everything. Every phase of their game is veterans, and they will pound you, beat you, bloody your nose, and they won't let off. There's no letting off the gas pedal. So I see Georgia as an outstanding team. But remember this, you got out of the, I call them elite. They're elite football teams. Now, elite football teams sometimes lose games. But elite football teams are Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas. Okay, those 4 teams look to be unbeatable. The problem is Georgia, somebody must have hates Georgia because they play, Georgia plays Tennessee, Texas, and Alabama. Alabama plays Tennessee and Georgia. Tennessee plays Alabama and Georgia. Texas plays 2 of the opponents. But Ole Miss is that 5th team in the SEC that you're like, man, they're really good. They do not play Georgia. They do not play Tennessee. They do not play Alabama. They do not play Texas. They escape the schedule. Lane Kiffin must be paying somebody, down there in the SEC country. He doesn't play the 4 elite teams.
Hey man, you get off lane. Don't make me come down there and pull a flint on you.
Look, bottom line, you can't discount Ole Miss. They're talented, but they don't play any of the big dogs.
Now that he's not there, because I never, I still wake up sometimes and think about the 3rd week of October in 2009 and just go, shit, but kickers. But Coach Saban said the other day, there was something and it popped up on my stuff. And he said, since Lane has been at Ole Miss, his skill people have been as good or better than anybody they've played. The problem that they had was the guys on both sides of the ball up front. They could not compete with the Alabamas and the Georgias up front. He said this year they can compete with anybody in the nation on both sides of the ball up front with their skill people. He thinks they're going to compete not only for the SEC championship, but for a national championship. He thinks that they're that improved up front.
I agree 100%, and we could talk all day about the 5 teams: Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia. But I want to highlight this. That's 5 dominant elite teams. But the 11 remaining members of the SEC are weak as water. You go look at the other teams in the SEC from the Missouris. That's great that the AP pundits, the posters got Missouri up there. But you got 5 teams. I'm not counting Missouri as an elite team.
Yeah, I'm saying, but they are right. They have them ranked.
I watched South Carolina and Kentucky, and it looked like an ACC game. You got Cal going into Auburn and whipping them on their home field. They're melting down over it. Texas A&M getting beat, that first weekend. LSU I said they lose their DBU cards because they couldn't cover anybody. From LSU all the way down to Vanderbilt, that is horrible football. And I've watched the games. I even watched Mississippi State out of Arizona, and they got beat. So what you have is a conference that's so top-heavy, it's almost like there's 5 NFL teams. One's got a favorable schedule like the likes of nobody else, and that's an Ole Miss, but you got 11 teams that probably could not play in the ACC. Not that's bold words, but that's how weak right now they are, and I don't know where the answers are for them.
I feel like it's always been that way, but now that it's all in one straight up standings instead of two separate conferences, it just seemed like it was always one side or the other. And I think the Big Ten had the same problem.
Right.
And as far as the scheduling goes, I really think something has to be done. It seems inconsistent. That they can have these. I don't know how the SEC does it with protected games, but for instance, Michigan has 2 protected games. Almost no other team in the Big Ten has that. And they're protected. I think it makes the schedules lopsided, and there needs to be something done. You can't always predict who the top teams are going to be, and the top team can't play everybody. But I think there is definitely some times where this is just going to happen. But then again, you can't blame the teams that do it, because the SEC for once this year actually played some away games against non-conference teams, which never happens. I mean, I know that Michigan State had a Alabama home series canceled in favor of playing more games in Dallas. That's just, scheduling is always going to be an issue, but when the conference does it and they make it uneven, you got to wonder.
I think there was a play. My mind, they knew they were top heavy with 5 teams, and they could get that 15. They were looking to get 5 teams in the top, the 12-team playoff. And so they make a schedule without Ole Miss playing one of the other 4, just at least one game. But to miss all 5 of those strong teams makes you scratch your head and go, what are they doing? They're playing on the fact that 2 lost teams, Ole Miss could have been 4 losses or 3 losses if they played, like Georgia's schedule, that Georgia would probably lose 1, still make the playoffs. Alabama and Texas could lose 1 or 2 of those games and still make the playoffs. There's 3. And then you got Tennessee is that team where, okay, the way they're playing and high explosive offense is that they could be a 2-loss team making the playoffs, and Ole Miss could be that 5th team. And I think there was a play on that schedule. It makes no sense. You can't tell me that somebody who's in charge of making a schedule, you're going to play that game. That's not right. I mean, but again, that's SEC. They'll get what they want. But again, I just, after watching all these teams for the first 2 weeks, I don't see a team in America that's better, can even compete with Georgia.
Well, and it looks like this weekend, Wake Forest could just show Mississippi who they really are.
We'll win the pregame. And we got a beautiful stadium down here.
You can win the coin flip. But you look at their schedule, and even outside of the SEC, they chose not to play anybody. I mean, they did pick Wake Forest, but they've got Georgia Southern. What I don't even know what MTSU is, and then Furman.
Middle Tennessee, baby.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's right, Middle Tennessee. I've tried to forget about them since they beat Michigan State in the first round of the NCAA tournament a number of years ago.
Let me go to a happy story. Tell me, folks, if you want to see something that lets you know that college sports still means something besides dollars and cents to some people, go to YouTube, go to wherever you go, because here on ours tonight, we're on like 8 different platforms. So go find a platform and go look at the interview for the Northern Illinois coach after they beat Notre Dame on Saturday. If that doesn't give you a little bit of hope, if that doesn't make you feel good about athletics in general, man, there's something wrong with you. That was, number one, that's a hell of a football game. Mm-hmm. And that was a first down by 1.5 yards that they took from them. So I do want to get that out of the way, because that was garbage and that was blatant. But be that as it may, if you want to see something good in America, go watch that interview. But that was amazing, because I think, Chuck, we talked about that Saturday night, Chuck.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it was an emotional thing. I love I love human emotion by coaches. They can be so dollar and cents corporate type executives that they can, sometimes you wonder, are they worried about their paychecks, when they're mad at their teams? But that was truly a guy who loves his players, and he walked in and told everybody, and nobody listened, that we're going in there to beat Notre Dame. And I'm sure the way they played, maybe his players believed him. America didn't. America, there were, and I may be wrong, and it's 28.5-point underdogs. And they went into historic Notre Dame Stadium and spanked the Irish, stunned them.
Yep.
No, and Tom Hanks said there's no crying in baseball, but I'm completely okay with crying in football.
Yeah.
It still doesn't match the first game ever broadcast on the Big Ten Network. I think you guys might not know this, but Appalachian State, Michigan, come on. Greatest college football game ever.
but that, but I go back and say, what a win, what a response. And then I'll tell you something else. If you want to know what these guys, not these young coaches, but these guys that have been coaching a while, go to YouTube and look up Tulsa's football coach. I sent you that today, Chuck, where he talked about the 7-year quarterback. And he said, man, he said he looked at the guys and said, go get a job. You're not supposed to be here at 26 years old. Go get a job. Get out of my facility. Basically, get out of my facility. This is not your place. This is for college students, young kids. And I think a lot of these older guys, and I believe this, and Peter, I talked about this last week with Chuck, is I respect the hell out of Coach Saban. I wasn't a big fan because, I'm a fan of the other people up on Rocky Top. But Coach Saban would still be the coach at the University of Alabama in a normal college football environment. I think that this new environment, and that's what kind of foreshadowing us into the Colorado discussion here. I think that the environment that it is now is you can't have long-term people. You can't function that way. You cannot live 365 days a year worried about what some 18-year-old kid, if he's got $2.5 million and somebody over here is offering him $2.56 million to keep him on your roster. And I just think that the people like Coach Saban, I don't see, and Chuck will attest to this. And Chuck's never really said, and I hope tonight he says what he thinks. I don't see Dabo staying long. I think this might be it for Dabo. I think he'll be in the TV booth. He hates this environment. The guy at Oklahoma State, Chuck, did you see the interview with him this week?
Yes.
Where he looked at him and said, we got this kid because we weren't going to pay him that much money. The other kid, we said, you can't be here. We're not going to pay you that kind of money. So, I think that we're going to lose the old hands quicker than we think. I think that Lane can hang in there. I think that in Kirby has enough clout in his program that he manages it pretty well. He doesn't have to have and pay all, because people want to go to Georgia, But before we get into specifically about Colorado, kind of tell me what you guys think about the world of college athletics and in particular college football right now.
I yield to our guest, Peter.
I spent 25 years since November of 1999 despising Nick Saban, and about 3 weeks ago I did a complete 180 about the guy. I mean, I respect the hell of him, and he's right. I think that this has changed for sure, without any doubt. New lawsuit now filed by former Michigan players against the NCAA today.
Yeah, I sent that to Chuck today. Because I told him that these people, if they cash in, people like Jonathan and those guys are going to make money, a lot of money in a hurry.
Well, I mean, anyone that played from 2016 on is going to get money. Mostly, that's kind of, there's the $22 million that the Big Ten is going to be forced to pay out per school over the next 10 years to those players that played from 2016 to 2021 before the NIL went into effect. I don't like there's just the idea that, hey, if I'm not getting what I want, I'm just going to pick up and leave. It leaves the fans in a really rough state. Now, I don't think that was the intention of NIL. I think there's some really good things with NIL that have happened. There's some fun things that have happened with NIL. So I mean, it's I really, Darius Snow, one of the Percy and Eric Snow family, he was able to get an NIL deal down to do a Darius Snow cone. I mean, that's the real behind it. It's not getting $2 million and a bunch of cars just to come play. It should involve them working for that, making public appearances, being in advertisements and things like that, not just simply getting paid to go to school. I don't think that was the spirit of it. It should help them build their fan base. When you go into these NIL portals, you see the number of Twitter followers and all this other stuff because you're looking for value for your investment as an advertiser. And that's what deals are. You don't go to the NFL and just get paid $2 million and give them a bunch of cars for not doing anything for that money for endorsement deals. So it's unfortunate where it is, but we're having to deal with what it is. And the money's not unlimited. It goes to a very small percentage of college athletes are getting this kind of money. Even some sports that are revenue, like golf, just finding a little bit of an NIL money to cover some of those additional costs to get you a full scholarship when you might not have one. Those are the kind of deals that we want to put together to make college a better experience for the athletes. It's frustrating. We've all seen it. Every team has seen it, losing a player that is a breakout star because their school can't put up the cash. And it's frustrating, but here we are 3 years after it started, and it is what it is.
Yeah, Chucky.
I think there are two things in the state of college football that are in a slow destruction of the foundation of what intercollegiate athletics are supposed to be about. Nobody talks about what they're majoring in. And I think that part of this is that they're getting paid and they're not going to make that money because not all are going to the NFL. They're not going to make this money once they leave school. Some will be able, maybe be waiters and waitresses. They're not going to make six figures and seven figures for the rest of their life. So they're going to make all the money they can make. They made a mistake on that because it became about the money when you get NIL instead of the degree. And I think the transfer portal is destroying the football.
I feel like that's the bigger issue.
Right. I agree 100%. NIL.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think personally, when you're talking all this NIL, the NCAA is sitting off in the corner, and right before the destruction and all the evil that's come from the NIL, they'll come swooping in and say, okay, guys, we're going to manage the NILs. Everybody, so they'll balance it out and everybody's going to get money, and they're going to be the ones because they'll make profit off the NIL. They'll make money for the NCAA. So the NCAA eventually, in my mind, my guess is that they're going to be running the NIL because you can't entrust the schools. The greater thing is that college coaches have figured out I can recruit the portal and not leave my seat on campus. I don't have to fly to Bug Tussle, Tennessee. I don't have to go up to Flint, Michigan. I don't have to go into the rooms of mom and daddy. I don't have to build a foundation with high school athletes. All I have to do is pick the phone up and go, you interested? Good. I need a quarterback. There's a plane waiting for you at your airport. Get on the plane and they fly them in. Lane Kiffin, I looked this up. Lane Kiffin has 22 starters on offense and defense, 11 each side. Of the 22 starters, Lane Kiffin has 18 transfer ins starting on the first team. If you add the transfer ins on the second team, he's at 36. So 36 of 44 players on the two position depth chart, 2-player depth chart, are transfers in. Lane doesn't leave Oxford. He stays home, brings them in. He doesn't have to go through the rigors and the promises. Well, coach, when, no more of, coach, I want to start my freshman year. And he'll say, like, well, I can't. I got 3 quarterbacks that are transferring in. If you want to come here, I'll let you compete. So high school guys can't find those guarantees anymore. They have to go on blind faith. And, when they tell them, if they get a better player in the transfer portal, they'll do a Dion. Son, you're not going to ever play here. It is in your best interest to go into the portal and find another home. And they do that. So you're eliminating the guys, the 1- and 2-year guys, high school. You get a look, see what little you get from the high school level. And I'm telling you, when you have 3,800 transfer portal, people went into the transfer portal last year, 3,800. 2,600 of them landed in a new home. 1,200 just up and disappeared. They didn't get a home. So what we're doing to these, we love those student athletes. Remember, that was what it was all about. The transfer portal is probably the most corrupt, evil thing for collegiate athletics. And sustaining itself for the rest of, for here and out. There's going to be changes.
So let's go back to and get in before we get off the air here tonight. Let's talk about Colorado.
Let me get a light subject here.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
we should have just went straight in from Nick Saban to Coach Prime. I that's the one thing I can't say I did a full 180 on Nick Saban because he's still in those commercials. I think you're putting a Hall of Fame coach against an unproven coach that's ruining college football. Why are they both in a commercial together?
Yeah, I totally agree. I will tell you, my frustration was and I think I made our group a little mad last year because for a little bit people were kind of saying Dion kind of early in the year and with my friends in our group and I kept saying I get it, but I don't get it. I think and again, they might not lose another football game this year, but even if they don't lose another football game, I think what is happening in Colorado is as wrong can be. You got kids walking on the field in pregame warmups, looking at the visiting stands, and and again, man, my kid took, he when you're the guy on the other team and you walk into one of these stadiums, you're gonna catch some crap. If you can't handle it, you shouldn't be there. And they turn around and the guy turns around and points and goes, "This is a $200,000 watch. I drive a Rolls Royce." That's bull crap. The culture, what we're teaching kids, the daddy ball, Chuck, that we talked about today, that is, I'm just not a fan, and I'm going to let you two talk. I'm just not a fan of the whole thing.
I could come up with 100 things to say. I would say let's talk about just this week, which came out. And I don't know if I'm a marching band guy. I've been doing the Michigan State marching band for longer than I've been doing football or hockey there.
And I did send that to Chuck. I don't know if he read it about the marching
Coach Prime
band.
has told. I don't even know. I'm calling him Coach Prime. That's whatever. Coach Prime has told the band they are not allowed to play the fight song when they scored a touchdown because he wants to play his son's rap song.
Say that again, so Chuck can hear.
Yeah, no playing the Colorado fight song when they score touchdowns, so that the rap song can be played, performed by his son.
It's called Perfect Time. His rap song, Perfect Time.
Okay.
Nepotism mixed with NIL mixed with everything else. It's just insane. That right there. The other thing that really is weird about Colorado is a very interesting academic school. I would venture to say that they have one of the lowest graduation rates of any college football team, not because the athletes aren't smart. But you go to Colorado and your credits don't transfer in, and a lot of times your credits don't transfer out. You're wasting time there if you're not going to stay there. You're not going to get a degree from there. It's a very, very difficult school and that's it's always been a recruiting challenge. But now you're just basically paying players to come in. I don't even know how academic standards matter anymore. Do you have to maintain a grade point average to continue to play football? I don't know.
I don't know, but before Chuck answers, I will tell you the quarterback for Boston College warmed my heart. He did the interview after the game. And it was on the ACC network, and they were interviewing him. And he stopped the interview and said, "Look, we got to go. I got to go. I got an 8 o'clock class in the morning." And he looked at the people interviewing and said, "We go to class here."
Right.
And I thought
you're
that
just
was
like Boston College because they're a New Balance school. They're the one New Balance school, and I know that's what you like to mow the lawn in.
Right.
So,
Right.
So anyway, let's continue the discussion about Colorado football and otherwise.
Well, he mentioned about academic standards and eligibility rules. You got to go to class and have a GPA to be concerned about academic standards and eligibility. We had 10 years ago, we had a pristine university in Chapel Hill that was having all their athletes take fraudulent academic courses. Folks, you say it and you're like, what does that mean? Well, what do you think it means? It means they get a grade for not attending any class. And to show you how deep it goes into Chapel Hill is that it had to go all the way to the top because you had to write that program, that definition of what that class was about in the catalog. You know, and everybody, you just don't sit there and it pops up and it's like, well, look, we have academic courses. You know, they're really fraudulent. You want an A? Okay. So you got an A. It helps the GPA. So they got caught, and then the SEC commissioner, Sankey, said, okay, it's that, well, there are other students. The way they got out of it was they got other students to say that they were taking from the general population. So you got students, and who are these students that are taking classes that are fraudulent academic courses? This is where we're going in academia. All right, back to Colorado. So I hear what Peter's saying, and I asked this question. When he first got to Colorado, who were the three people that did, like, everywhere you turn around, they were doing commercials? There was Shador, there was Shiloh, and Prime.
Yeah.
His two sons. There wasn't 80, there wasn't any other player doing these commercials. It was just his kids and him. So now you watch the commercial, we laugh at him doing the commercial, Aflac with, and he does other ones, almonds and on and on and on. But you don't see anybody else from Colorado. And so who's making that money? The Sanders family.
Yeah.
So,
and you got kids coming in for 1 year with huge expectations, and we're like, well, this wasn't what they promised me. He's a salesman and a pretty damn good one, but he's not selling a culture that players are going to thrive in. He's not selling a great football team yet. And I don't even know if he's proven he's a good coach.
Right.
So no, I totally agree with that. And, put yourself in the locker room.
Okay.
Put yourself in the locker room. You're out here busting because folks, if you don't understand, college football is 364 days a year. You might have like one off. It's every day. The season might end at the end of the year. The next day you're already back in the weight room. You're getting ready and you're running and you're doing all those things. All the effort that you're putting in physically, mentally, emotionally, and you're basically just a prop. That locker room has got to turn toxic.
I don't know what the locker room's about. I can only imagine and guess. I try to look at things and say, okay, I can put my finger on this, and I can only assume, and I don't want to do that right now with Colorado, but I can only assume that they got problems in the locker room. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you because there's problems out on the field.
Well, as soon as you start losing, those problems start to bubble up to the top.
Right.
I think one of the good things to say, I mean, he's willing to have his kids play for him. That's great. But would other coaches be willing to let their kids play for him?
Right.
I think that's a test of a good coach. And that's one of the things I've always felt so great about. I know it's a different sport about Tom Izzo. Not only he's just an amazing person, but how many college basketball coaches have sent their kids to walk on at Michigan State because they know that spending time in a positive environment like that is a great thing. I know the program hasn't been perfect. There have been issues at MSU, but that's the sign of a coach, is whether coaches want their kids to play for them, and they may be hard on them, but I don't think there's anything that Coach Prime has done to say, yeah, I'm going to take care of your kids. I'm going to teach them the right thing to do. I may promise them a bunch of money.
That's it.
I'm not going to
Okay,
promise.
I think that pretty much is the answer to the question, unless you guys disagree with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay you this much money.
Right. We're not going to class because you're going to make money. And you sell the ideas that you're going to make all this money. And it's 6 figures for these players Prime wants to pay. Okay. Prime dictates who gets what now.
Yeah.
So you have Prime, but his boys are getting 7 figures. And Prime's getting maybe 8 figures. I don't know, but it's close to that. So you have issues in that program because you're there at an academic institution not taking academic courses. Come on, let's be honest. They're not taking courses. Ask any one of them, what's your major? You remember we used to do that on television. Guy introduced, they line up and they introduced the starting lineups from Ohio State or Michigan, and they put his name, where he's from, and his major. We don't do that anymore.
General studies. That's general studies. That's what you're not forced to pick a major.
Because Chuck, remember when all this was going? Peter, when he was leaving Jackson State and he was going to go somewhere, and we had a lot of debate and discussion, and I thought this is going to be a good thing, and I was in at that point, and I kept saying Georgia Tech. It's Atlanta. There's money. There's this. He'll be going back to Atlanta. But the more I listen to Chuck talk, the more I think I understand why Georgia Tech did not pull the trigger or even speak to him, because it goes back to the academic end of it. And you got to go to class and you got to do those things at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Right. And it just kind of dawned on me that maybe that's why he's not in Atlanta.
I bring up 2 points to that, and David, that's a valid point.
Well, you brought it up. I just kind of put it, yeah.
You're reiterating the fact and you believe it, okay? And your eyes don't deceive you. You see it and you're like, okay, you start asking, why did they do that? Why didn't they do this? There's 2 points I want to make. Have you heard of Jackson State since Prime left? They were devastated by the roster. Okay, they had to regroup. Number 2 is I believe that Deion's program is a house built on sand. I don't know how to explain it.
I think sand might be a little bit too strong. I think it's built on snow. It's going to melt.
Come on, man. People in North Carolina don't understand that. It's going to snow at the end of September, maybe early October. You understand that. You're right, though, Clay, is that it's built. It does not have a foundation. And any program that's not built on a foundation will eventually, not maybe, will eventually sink and crash. And so a program that's not doing anything, probably don't leave Boulder. He brings them all in, makes a phone call. He's got people, okay, who are we going after? Bring them into Prime. I'm the closer. I'll seal the deal. And so it's a weird way. It's just the recruiting aspect that you're going to live and die by that sword, but you're going to die by that sword. And so programs can't crash. What do they do, David? Who's there to pick up the pieces?
All right, I'm going to ask you
one of the most exciting players, baseball, football players ever to play So fun to watch. I just don't want to watch him coach.
Yeah. Let me ask you guys this. Put yourself the AD of Colorado 18 months ago was going, I think this is awesome. Put yourself in the AD of Colorado today. And when he's alone in his office.
I watched Colorado when he hired Deion. He was on top of the world. He was the AD. He brought in prime time, and it was television and former teammates and former people in the NFL. They were coming from everywhere to come to Colorado. When they won 3 games, and I said at the beginning of that first year they would be 3-9. And when they went 2-0 or 3-0, I said, well, maybe I'm wrong. I guess and then all of a sudden they just went, they sunk, and they lost. They ended up 3-9 or 4-8.
4-8.
Yeah. So anyhow, you have no progression, and the AD was seen everywhere. Hey, I'm with Prime. I'm a hero with the alumni. We got donations coming in. Donations are now drying up. People are upset at what they're seeing. This is not about the kids. It's about Prime. And I loved watching him play. And I was he was a better baseball player than he was a football player. But that doesn't, I digressed on that. But still, is that you have a situation that he is self-absorbed in his self-promotion.
And if you're going to the athletic director, I mean, I don't know how long he's been there, but he's made 3 bad hires in a row in my mind.
Yes,
no secret that I'm not a Mel Tucker fan, but Mel Tucker, 5-7 left them in the lurch, and then did what he did at MSU. You got coach before 8-15 for Caradoro, and then Deion's 4-8 right now. I don't know. I have a cousin who went to Boulder, and I want him to have a team that he can root for, but I don't know. It'd be a whole lot different if they came out and dominated.
Well,
the excitement stops as soon as they step on the field.
If you go back to the SWAC, the conference where Jackson State is, he's not liked. Eddie Robinson Jr. said, he's not SWAC, I'm SWAC. He is good riddance, is the mantra of the SWAC conference when Deion left. And I believe there is I don't want to say pretend, but these other coaches are playing the game. But right now, Deion Primetime's got some issues with the media. He's got issues with his program, and he's got issues with his kids. And again, a house built on sand is going to sink. It's sinking.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. And again, I go back to Saturday, and I don't want to pick on kids, but if you're you're making millions of dollars, you better be able to handle everything that comes along with it. I don't want to hear crap walking off the field with 4 minutes left in the game. When you're the guy, you are the leader, you are the quarterback, and you're going to abandon your team with 4 minutes left in the game. That's garbage. He wasn't hurt enough to leave the field. That's garbage.
Right. Well,
can I end it with my
Yes.
portion with a little public service announcement? So, my dad died of colon cancer. I'm having my second colonoscopy tomorrow. I took the pills right before we started. I gotta go.
All right, you gonna be back with us next week, Peter?
Tested. Prevent both of you. If you haven't done it, do it.
I have. You gonna be back with us next week?
I think so. Let's talk.
That's awesome.
This was fun.
I'll let you get out of here, and then Chuck and I are going to end this thing. Peter, have a good one. Thank you so much.
Good.
Welcome. Yep, I get that. I've had colonoscopies, and when you take that, when you drink that drink, when it calls, you gots to go.
Yeah. I just took for a colonoscopy and today, and it was like all day at the hospital, and they come in and goes, well, it didn't go as good as we thought it would. They could only get a read. She got a weird colon, and they kept moving around trying to get her colon, pictures.
Yeah.
They could only do half, so she's got to redo this thing. With,
Oh,
I mean, it is what
yeah,
it.
that whole gallon of stuff you have to drink.
Got to do it again, David.
Oh, folks, when you get old like us, it's what happens. But
David, I'm gonna
yes,
fight
sir.
to keep her with us. I will fight to keep us with her.
Oh,
Fight to keep her with me.
You bet your ass. Excuse my language. You bet your ass. Ben, I was, in our story. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. So, we'll be back Friday morning for our Swain Tuscola preview, and then depending on the reception that we get from the stadium out in Bryson City, if we can do our 15 to 20 minute pregame from the stadium show that starts at 6:30. We already posted. Chuck sent it to me today, and it's already on the Tuscola Football Network and eNet Sports. The Friday night games and updates that we're going to have that include high school football, what little college football, which should not be played on Friday nights, by the way. That's garbage. Right. And Major League Baseball scores. As the regular season is winding down, man. Wow.
Will we be on Thursday? I got it planned, David and Chuck, on Thursday night, or are we just going to go right to Friday?
We're going to go right to Friday.
Got you.
Okay. Any last words, Chuck? And you and Peter were great tonight. Thank you so much.
Peter was awesome. He's going to be a regular on our show. It's valuable information that you get from. We're going to have Truett giving
John.
John, I think on Friday, or we're going to have John give us hopefully, if we can catch him when he's sober, in a Montana.
Wait a minute. Hold on just a second. Hold on. Is that game Thursday night?
I'll check. I'll get with
you. Because he's going to the Western. He's going out west because Western's playing who?
Montana.
So what day is that? A Saturday game?
Let me check.
Yeah, let's check and see. And then we got John Truett, and for those of you and everybody misses him and loves him, we're working real hard to get Lloyd, the Swami, to talk SEC and his beloved LSU Tigers, which I don't understand that, but that's and we're going to have Lloyd back on, and we're working on some things that we're going to have some great guests that will be joining us from all over the country, from all over different sports. We're going to have folks that you're going to go, wow, what are they doing on the David and Chuck show? It's because we can.
Right.
So really excited. And hey, I'm proud of you, Chuck, because I know deep in your soul you wanted to just tell Peter, look, I know that my niece is a Sparty, but my blood bleedeth blue, and you and I are going to have a long football season talking on this show on Tuesday nights. But you did so well.
My blood bleed maroon. Elma College.
All right, bud. Hey, so we'll see everyone Friday morning around 9:00 as we get ready for our preview. And Chuck, thank you. Hug Angie. Tell her we love her. Yep. And let's do this.
Just to know, I got big league by your son today. I got 3 calls into him, and he big leagued me. So he's deep into the burrow right now. Bill Belichick Jr., and he ain't talking to anybody.
I think, and I'm not going to defend him because that's why I don't call him, because I don't want to, I'd hate to, because I'll go over here and smash his windshield or something. But I think that there was something with because I did have about a 30-second conversation with him. I sent him a text and said, hey, I need you to call me real fast when you get a chance. And he said, hey, there's something about the practice, something that he had to get fixed. So I just said, hey, I'll see you later. But answer your phone, Jonathan, when Chuck calls. Don't make me come over there and break your windshield.
Oh, on the third call, you get an emoji with a smile. He reads it. It's like he knows what he's doing. Okay.
He's a turd.
Fine.
But anyway, Chucky, have a good night. Hug Angie for me. And everybody have a great, great week and be good to each other. See you.
All right.
Bye-bye.